Welcome to Q&ASMR. Hello, I'm glad you can make it. These questions are brought to me by listeners like you. Please sit back, relax, and enjoy. This first question comes from Tiny Tim. What's the difference between a primary and a caucus? It is that time of year, isn't it? Primary season in the U.S., this time for a midterm election. Developed and used almost entirely in the U.S., the primary system is how we determine which candidates end up in the general election in November. 47 states hold a primary election, while 3 states hold a caucus. So, what's the difference? Well, primary elections are held by the state. Some states do open primaries, which means that any voter can participate regardless of party affiliation. Other states have closed or semi-closed primaries, where voters must be members of a specific political party to cast their votes in that party's primary. These votes are then counted like any other election, and that information is used to determine which candidate proceeds to the general election. It gets a little more complicated during presidential elections, where the Electoral College gets involved, but in general, the idea is the same. A caucus, on the other hand, is held by a certain political party. The rules for vote or delegate distribution are determined by each party, but the function appears to be basically the same, state to state and party to party. Instead of going to a voting location, voters in a caucus gather in a larger space, like a gymnasium or church. Within these locations, they then begin to form clusters of voters who all wish to vote for the same candidate. Voters are free to roam the area and talk with other voters about why they support that candidate, with some locations even allocating a zone for undecided voters. Then, after some pre-allotted time, a pause is called. The event organizers check to see which candidates are viable, having some minimum percentage of participants, and then lock in those voters. The voters in the non-viable zones are then given an opportunity to join one of the viable candidates or abstain from the rest of voting. After some time, these new results are tabulated and used to determine the winner. Caucuses are more public, since you're standing around with your neighbors and talking to them about their political views, while primaries are more private. A caucus also gives you a chance to cast a second choice vote if your candidate doesn't have enough support. Thanks for that great question, and don't forget to vote. This question comes from FootballFan44. So, which teams have never won the World Cup? Oh boy, a lot of them. Since the FIFA World Cup is theoretically a global competition that any nation could enter a team into, that means that about 187 nations have never won the World Cup, which is almost all of them, all but 8 as it happens, and that's basically just a list of all the nations of the world. To make this list a little more entertaining and a little more focused, I will go through the teams that have qualified for the World Cup tournament and have then failed to win. We'll start with all the teams that have never passed the group stage. Israel, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Kuwait, Iraq, the United Arab Emirates, Jamaica, China, Angola, Togo, Trinidad and Tobago, Bosnia and Herzegovina, and Iceland have all qualified only once and never made it past the group stage. Qatar, Haiti, Panama, El Salvador, and Slovenia have each made the group stage twice, but failed to get past it. Canada, Honduras, and New Zealand have all been stopped at the group stage 3 times, and the Ivory Coast and South Africa have both been stopped 4 times. Iran and Tunisia have both made the group stage 7 times without progressing in the tournament, which is only outdone by Scotland, who have qualified for the group stage 9 times and have never passed it. After the group stage comes the round of 16, where the single elimination tournament begins in earnest. This may change starting this year, as more teams are being added to the overall tournament, but that remains to be seen. Anyway, these teams have only made it as far as the round of 16. Indonesia and Slovakia, each in their only appearance, made it this far. In 3 appearances, Greece has only made it this far. Egypt and Norway have qualified 4 times each and only made it to the round of 16, twice for Norway. Ecuador and Algeria have only made it as far as the round of 16 in their 5 appearances. Nigeria has made the round of 16 in 3 out of their 6 appearances in the World Cup. Saudi Arabia and Australia have each failed to break out of the round of 16 in the 7 appearances they've had. Japan has made the round of 16 4 out of the 8 times they have qualified. Following the round of 16 is the round of 8, or the quarterfinals. These teams have only ever made it to this round. Cuba, Ukraine, and East Germany are 1 for 1, though I suppose East Germany doesn't really exist anymore. Anyway, Wales and North Korea have both made it only as far as the quarterfinals in their 2 qualifications. Northern Ireland, the one from the UK, and the Republic of Ireland, that's the rest of Ireland, have both qualified 3 times each and capped out at the quarterfinals. Senegal has qualified 4 times and only made it as far as the quarterfinals. Ghana and Peru have both appeared 5 times and only made the quarterfinals, with Peru actually making it twice. Costa Rica and Denmark have appeared 6 times, Colombia and Romania 7 times, Cameroon 8 times, and Paraguay 9 times, and each has only made a single quarterfinals appearance. Switzerland has the most quarterfinals appearances with 3 out of their 13 qualifications, and Mexico has the most appearances in this category with 18, of which 2 ended in the quarterfinals. After the quarterfinals would be the semifinals, but the winners of that go on to be first and second place after their finals match, and the losers go on to be third and fourth place after their match. Here are the teams who have gotten as close to the podium as possible without ever placing. Bulgaria and Morocco have placed 4th once each in their 7 appearances. Russia, or the Soviet Union for many years, has appeared 11 times, but only placed 4th once. South Korea has a single 4th place in their 12 appearances, and Serbia, or Yugoslavia for many years, has placed 4th twice in their 13 appearances. Turkey has only appeared in the World Cup twice, but they did make it all the way to 3rd place one of those times. Austria has a single 3rd in 8 appearances. Portugal and Chile each have 1 3rd in 9 appearances, and Poland has 2 3rds in 9. The United States has had 12 appearances and only managed a single 3rd place, while Belgium has had 15 appearances and has only managed a single 3rd place. Finally, since we're not covering the winning teams, Croatia has appeared in 7 World Cups and has made it as far as 2nd place. Hungary and Czechia, or the Czech Republic, or Czechoslovakia for a time, have each made 9 appearances and placed 2nd twice. Sweden and the Netherlands have each made 12 appearances and have placed 2nd once and 3 times, respectively. Actually, finally, are the 4 unknowns. Cape Verde, Curacao, Jordan, and Uzbekistan have all qualified for the World Cup for the first time this year. Only time will tell how far into the tournament they can make it. In addition, there are still a few qualification tournaments happening at the end of this month, so we may end up seeing a few more first-timers by then, too. Thanks for that great question. This question comes from Bob. Why do we call most meats by different names than their animals? You know, I can't imagine there's a cook or chef or meat eater out there that hasn't wondered this at some point. It seems a little weird, right? For fish, the broad term is seafood, food from the sea, obviously, but we'll still just say which fish or crustacean we're eating. But if we're eating cow, we're eating beef. Pig? No. Pork. Or ham. Or bacon. So, why do we do this? Well, because the English language is a mess. The animal words we're using, cow, sheep, deer, chicken, and pig, all have Germanic roots. But the meat words we're using, beef, mutton, venison, poultry, and pork, all have Latin roots. I don't know why we decided to keep both root words when describing a single animal, but there it is. There are a few quirks to this that I would like to mention. You may have already spotted one, but poultry is actually another blanket term, like seafood, that covers any domesticated bird's meat. Chicken, yes, but also duck, turkey, and goose. Sheep meat actually has 3 terms for it, depending on what age the animal was when it died. Lamb is actually the same word for both the animal and the meat, and is from sheep less than 1 year old. Mutton is from older sheep, but hogget is meat from a sheep that is more than a year old, but not quite old enough to be considered mutton. Similarly, veal is meat from young cows, and the origins are still the same. Veal is the Latin word for young cow, whereas calf has a Germanic root. Last is venison, which today is used to mean deer meat, or antelope meat in South Africa. But this was not always the case. Venison gets its origins from the Latin term venari, which means to hunt or pursue. So, venison used to mean any game meat that was hunted: deer, rabbits, boar, and even some species of goats. Man, now I'm hungry. Thank you again to Tiny Tim, Football Fan 44, and Bob. If you would like to have your question answered in a video, leave it in a comment below this one. If you would prefer to ask your question a little more privately, you can email me your question at questionsandasmr@gmail.com. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more questions like these every week. Thanks again for listening. Goodbye for now.